Wait, before you keep scrolling, watch this, because in this video I'm going to share 100 whimsical and unique ideas to spend the summer offline, because I just know that we are all tired of doomscrolling and AI. So let's stir our cauldron and add some ingredients to create a life that feels more magical and whimsical, where we don't feel like we have to be glued to our phones all day long. And so this is not just a list, it really is an invitation to a slower and more magical life. And I know your time is super precious, and for that I created categories. So don't worry, you do not have to listen to all of these 100 whimsical ideas, even though, yes, you could, maybe while doing your chores. This is what I always do, but don't feel pressure. You can find the categories with their timestamps in the description box down below and also the pinned comment, and you can simply go there and see what category interests you the most. And I think it's a really whimsical mixture of soft outdoor adventures. We have kitchen witchery, green witchcraft, art and culture. And so I think there is something included for everyone to get inspired to spend the summer like a whimsical little fairy. Oh, and don't forget to share your own ideas, of course, because I really want this to be this big happy collection of whimsical offline ideas. So the first category is Grandma Hobbies and the Slow Craft Revolution. And so this category is all about keeping your hands busy but your mind quiet. And I really think that analog hobbies are perfect to keep your mind quiet, because they usually include some repetitive movements with your hands, which is perfect to get into this meditative state of mind. And so keep in mind that there is so many analog hobbies, and if you are like me, you may spend all of your money to learn all of them, but I still think it's worth it. But yeah, keep in mind there is so many of them. I'm going to share some of my favorite to give you some inspiration for maybe your new offline hobby. Okay, so the first analog hobby is, yes, you guessed it, embroidery. And I just love embroidery so much, because to me it is this really powerful form of magic. And with every single stitch I embroider my intentions and magic into my work. And what I also really love about embroidery is that you can see results really fast. So even with the most basic stitches, you can already create amazing art. And you can then also start to include different variations of embroidery. So you can maybe start to embroider with pearls or 3D embroidery. Maybe you want to try out the cross stitch. So there is so many different options. So embroidery honestly never gets boring. Okay, if you watched my recent videos, you know how obsessed I have been with sewing. And my goal this year is to start sewing my own clothes, because I can make my clothes super individual. I do not like the fashion in the stores, and so sewing your own clothes is so much fun, because you can sew what you want to wear. And also, like, the economy right now, right? No thank you. Like, I want to sew my clothes in a cheap way, and my tip for that is go to the thrift store and buy bed sheets, because I always buy them for 1 or 2 euros, and then I make the most amazing dresses and shirts and skirts out of them. So this is my go-to tip if you want to save money, be individual when it comes to your fashion, and spend your summer offline. Okay, so next analog hobby is candle making, and candle making is so much fun. It is so therapeutic, plus you can control the ingredients that are in your candle, which is amazing. And I also feel like when you make your own consumer goods, you really start to appreciate more what you have, because you know the amount of work that went into your, for example, candles. And so highly recommend. Make your own candles. You can make them individual and cute however you want, and also make them non-toxic. This is something I would definitely recommend to do this summer instead of scrolling. When it comes to analog hobbies, something that I definitely want to try this summer instead of spending my time online is bookbinding, because I want to bind my own journals and green witch diaries and grimoires. I just want to make them as unique and individual as I possibly can. And leaning into the idea of bookbinding, you could also start making your own paper. Making your own recycled paper is a little bit messy and requires some work, but it is so much fun and really good for the environment. And so you can use the paper you just made and then bind it into your new journal. So how amazing is this? Okay, next idea for the analog hobby list is weaving your own baskets. And I love baskets in every shape and form, and I collect them because I always use them for my foraging adventures. But I also recently saw someone using stinging nettle stems and dandelion stems to make little baskets. And so you can make baskets literally nearly out of everything, and I think these tiny dandelion baskets would be perfect to store your crystals or your treasures you found in nature. So if you want to try it out this year with me, write it on your bucket list and let's try weaving our first basket together. So next on the analog hobby list is, of course, thrifting. And I am obsessed with thrifting, as you know, because to me, thrifting is not just shopping and saving money. It really is a form of time traveling to me, because if you think about it, you go into the store and you see all of these items that have a story to tell, that already lived a life. And I also really love thrift flipping things, like upcycling them, giving them a new life, and it is just so much fun. It honestly never gets boring because there is just so many options. And so also in a world where everything is starting to turn gray, like the houses, the items, everything is gray nowadays. And so I love that we can still find items with character and with color. So let's just bring it back and let's give these items a second home. Okay, so I could go on and on with the analog hobbies because honestly, the options are endless. There is so many to choose from. There is also knitting and pottery and flower arrangements, pressing flowers. You could puzzle, you could make your own jewelry. There is leather crafting. There is also sketching and scrapbooking. Like, there is so many to choose from. So really take your time this year and find your new favorite analog hobby. Okay, instead of being online, we could also craft to make the ordinary more magical. And I again feel like this category would need its own video because there is so many magical, whimsical craft ideas that I would want to share with you, but then you would listen to this until next week. But I still wanted to share some cute craft ideas with you. And so if you love crafting, everyday alchemy and crafts is your category. Okay, the first idea from this category is to craft a whimsy wand. And every witch, every wizard needs a wand, and they are more easy than you think, because I feel like the most difficult part is to find a really cool stick. And I'm always jealous when I see people online proudly presenting the sticks that they just found. I'm like, where do I find this? So if you found a cute stick, you already made it through the hardest part, because you can make it into a whimsy wand by simply gluing crystals on it. You could use a wood burner and burn some runes into it. You can drill a hole into it and maybe thread some crystals on it. Like, the options are endless. You can paint it with acrylic paint, and I always thrive when I'm making wands because they are just adorable and so much fun. So instead of being online this summer, make your own wand. Instead of doom scrolling, you could also embroider whimsical tiny symbols onto your clothes. And I just love making everything unique and individual. So an easy way to do that is to embroider flowers, symbols, maybe little mushrooms or acorns, or maybe some ivy onto your pants, your shirts, your jackets. It is so much fun, and everything is better with a tiny mushroom on it, right? The next idea is to make a vision board, but make it fully analog. So use old magazines, old books. You can use stationery, stickers, stamps, and really create a vision board that makes you feel excited about your life and what is about to come. So making a vision board is so much more rewarding than spending your time online. Okay, so the next idea is to get a little puppy, because trust me, you will not have the time to be online again, because they want to be with you all day long. And obviously, I'm just joking. Bella wanted to say hi. Okay, this next idea is so much fun, because did you know that you can turn branches into the most adorable little wooden beads? For example, the elderflower tree is perfect for that, because all you need to do is to remove the fluffy filling and then cut your branch into little pieces, and there you go. You have your wooden natural beads. You can even maybe paint or engrave runes into them to make them even more whimsical. So I think this is such a cool thing to do instead of scrolling this summer. I've said it before, but I will say it again. Letters and snail mail need to have a comeback. And like writing with your own hands, right? Writing into journals and notebooks, writing your diary. And so I am all in for letters and snail mail and journals. But what makes all of that more whimsical? Exactly, stamps. And did you know that you can easily make your own stamps by using old erasers and carving symbols into them? Because if you're like me, your erasers probably have lost all of their erasing ability because they have been stored in a drawer for 2 decades. So the next time you come across an old eraser, give it a new whimsical purpose by carving patterns and symbols and letters inside and using it as a stamp for your letters and journals. Okay, so the next idea from this category is to learn cursive writing. And I still learned cursive writing in elementary school, and honestly, I am so glad I did, because it allows me to read old books from other centuries, and I collect herbal books from the 19th and 20th century, if I can even older. But I am so glad because I can make my way through the book, but if I did not learn it, I would not be able to. And so learning cursive writing is so rewarding because you have access to old knowledge as well, which is super helpful, again, I feel like, when it comes to herbalism. And little fun fact, did you know that AI cannot read cursive writing? So there is only plus points to learning cursive writing instead of scrolling online. Okay, so another idea for you to spend this summer offline and craft instead of scrolling is to make your own plant and herb markers. And I did this in the past simply with popsicle sticks. So it is really easy and cheap. You can use a wood burner and burn the name of the plants and herbs inside. You could use some clay to make them, and we will need them later in the category when it's all about green witchcraft. So maybe you want to start making your own plant and herb markers instead of scrolling. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I love teeny tiny things. I love everything that is miniature, like the miniature versions of our everyday items. And I always wished that I could live in the Ariete world because I just thought it's adorable. But I am looking right now at a miniature violin. I love miniature furniture, tiny books, like why is everything so cute when it is very tiny? And so instead of spending your summer online, why not craft miniature everyday items? So again, you could make books, you could even make little things from nature finds, like I did a little fairy sink with just sticks and a walnut that I found outside and some moss. Like, it is so much fun, and trust me, you will get obsessed and you want to make everything in a tiny version, but it is so worth it. And every minute we spend offline is a good minute. Trust me when I say you never want to throw away cool looking glass bottles anymore, because did you know that you can turn them into the most enchanted potion bottles you can ever imagine? So for example, an empty maple syrup bottle, you only have to remove the label. You can maybe work with some clay, you can create mushrooms or poisonous ivy around it and then paint it. And if you want, label it, you can also fill it. And I saw people using glitter and I think it was alcohol or something to prevent mold. But by that you get the most enchanted little potion bottle that makes you feel like you entered a alchemist's laboratory, which is everything we ever want. Okay, category number 3 is childhood imagination revival. And this category includes ideas that help you give the mundane more playfulness. And no, we are not escaping reality here. We are simply adding softness to it and a story where life usually forgets to provide one. And so why not assign magical meanings to the most random objects in your life? So for example, your backpack, the boring mundane backpack, could become an enchanted traveler's bag. And whenever you wear it, you feel like you are going on this fantastical adventure. Or maybe your favorite necklace could become an enchanted necklace that holds the memories of the dragons. And so this really feels like you are stepping into a fantasy world for a moment. Okay, so the next idea is to create themed outfits and be really playful here. So as a child, I always loved wearing these colorful dresses from one of my relatives that were way too big, but I just had fun. I felt like this princess. And so creating themed outfit is a really fun way to get this playfulness back into your life. So you could create a themed outfit for luck or self-love. Maybe you want to go more magical and create a themed outfit for forest fairy or Victorian librarian or modern hobbit. Like, the options are endless and it is so much fun. It can really help you discover the aesthetic you like and kind of help you find your personal style. And so I really love using Pinterest for that to create mood boards. Canva is also really good for that. And yeah, just having fun with exploring all of the different aesthetics and styles. And I really love when hobbitcore meets dragon rider with a pinch of cottagecore witch. So that's kind of my aesthetic. Okay, so the next idea is so much fun, and it is to document your day like a fantasy story. And this is such a unique way to make your mundane life feel more magical and fantasy-like. And so when you go to that grocery store and you are buying groceries, turn it into this magical scene from a fantasy book. Or when you are going to the market to buy some food or vegetables, really imagine how you are walking on this market from a fantasy book and you see all of these ingredients and foods and vegetables from all over this fantasy world. It is so much fun. Your local walk in the forest could turn into this walk into the fairy realm. Like, I have so many ideas and it is always so much fun. I feel like now in my head I always do it anyways because I have so much fun. And again, like, this is not being delusional here. I feel like it can really help with your creativity. For example, if you are an artist, you are writing books or something like that, it really helps me to immerse myself into my books and my stories more. And so, yeah, just bring back this childlike imagination and curiosity. And I feel like we lose this as adults, so it's always good to bring it back. With this next idea, we are literally bending time by living like it is 1820, or you could choose whatever year you like. But I feel like it is such a fun experience to imagine you live like in a different century, like using no electricity, only cooking with fire, and just really time traveling back into these ages. You can do some research. I, of course, would recommend to do it offline, maybe with some books or magazines. And so I feel like it is such a cool idea and really helps you to maybe understand how your ancestors lived. And yeah, you can easily come up with your own themes for this as well. Maybe it's the 1950s, maybe the 1970s, whatever it is that you enjoy. Okay, so the next idea is to imagine the spirit of your local forest. And this idea came to me while I was watching the Ghibli movie Princess Mononoke yesterday. And so the next time you want to pick up your phone, you want to scroll, take your shoes instead and go to your local forest. Sit under a tree and just listen and see what comes up, what colors, what words, what feelings, what pictures. And I'm sure it's probably not even just the imagination. You are listening to the story that the trees are telling you, because I am convinced that the trees are telling a story, but we have just forgotten to listen to them. And so we are listening instead of scrolling this summer. Okay, so the next idea is to interview an elder. So if you have the chance to maybe talk to your grandparents or another elderly person from your family or anyone really you know, ask them about their childhood. Like, what did they do in their summers, in their free time? Because they did not have a smartphone. They had to be off screen. And I personally really love talking to people and like hearing their stories about their lives, like especially older people. I don't know what it is, but it's always so inspiring to me. And so yeah, I am sure you will get even more inspiration on how to spend your summer off screen, because again, they didn't have any smartphones and probably not even a TV. And I again think it is just so interesting to allow them to tell their story and listen to their story. So yeah, I think it's a really cool idea to spend the summer instead of scrolling. Another thing you can do this year instead of being online is to stargaze. And instead of looking into a black screen, you can look up into the sky and observe the stars and the moon. Maybe you see a shooting star and you can make a wish. And this is one of my most favorite things to do, to be honest. Just wrapping myself up in a blanket, sitting on my patio and looking up and just watching the stars. It is so calming and relaxing and still mesmerizing. So instead of looking into your phone, look up into the sky. And during daytime, you can of course also look up into the sky and interpret the clouds. This is so much fun. I used to do this all the time as a child. So look up into the sky and interpret the shapes of the clouds. You can see what animal they resonate or what shape. You can even come up with a new scientific name for this kind of cloud, and you just made it up. It is so much fun, so try it out this year. Instead of looking into your phone, look up to the clouds. And the last idea from this category is to create a time capsule, because who said time capsules are only for children? And so this summer, instead of scrolling, try to maybe write a letter to your future self and put it in a bottle and then seal it tightly. You can also put maybe something inside that is dear to you. And I just love the idea, thinking that we make these time capsules and maybe in the future someone finds it. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone completely differently, someone 500 years from now, like who knows? I think the idea itself is so whimsical, but again, you can write it so you kind of read it in 10 or 20 years or whatever resonates with you. And I think it is just such a fun way to spend summer instead of scrolling. Category number 4 is the library archives. And so if you love reading and writing and you are a bookworm just like me, this is your category. And the first idea from this category is to start a themed TBR. TBR simply means to be read, and so it is a list that consists of all of the books that you want to read. But we don't just make a boring TBR, we make it whimsical and themed. And so, for example, for this offline summer, you could decide to make a TBR that is inspired by the themes of summer and ocean and maybe pirates. And there is some research included for this idea. And of course, I would recommend to do this offline in your library, but you can do it online. If you do it online, I would recommend to set your browser to login mode or don't disturb mode, depending on what you have. And by that, you don't get distracted to scroll through other pages. So yeah, start your themed TBR this summer instead of doom scrolling. The next idea from this category is to start a reading journal, but of course, make it fully analog. So start tracking your reading and start a physical journal where you log all of the books that you have read. And you can then give them star ratings, you can include your thoughts and like what you liked about the book, what not. You can maybe write about the development of the protagonist or the fantasy world. Like again, the options are so endless. You can make it your unique project, and you can even print out little covers from the books and include them, like make it kind of a scrapbook and just have this really 90s feeling like project that you can start this summer instead of wasting your time by doom scrolling. The next idea that leans into your analog reading journal is annotating books. And so the next time you are reading a book, get out your highlighters, get out your sticky tabs and start really working with the book. Like again, use your highlighters, put some sticky tabs inside. You can write on your thoughts on the pages. And I don't know about you, but whenever I do this, I feel like, that knowledge, like it really gives me this feeling of I just really worked with the knowledge inside of the book. So it's good, it's fun, and it's something to do instead of scrolling, definitely. The next idea on the list is to start making your own scrapbooks. And I just love the aesthetic of scrapbooks so much. They are so whimsical and beautiful and really have this nostalgic 90s feeling. And so instead of scrolling this summer, start making your own scrapbooks. Use a journal you like and then work with pictures, with images, clippings from old magazines, old book pages, stickers. You can use stamps, maybe the one we made together in the other category. But yeah, it is so much fun. You can work with your handwriting as well to give it even more personal energy. And I started making my own scrapbook about fantasy worlds because I am obsessed with fantasy worlds, and scrapbooking is a lot of fun. It takes a lot of time, I will say that, but again, it is good because every single minute we spend offline is a minute well used, I would say. Another really cool idea to do this summer instead of endlessly scrolling on your phone is to design fictional book covers. So run to your local thrift store and get some books that no one anyway reads anymore, that are falling apart, that you can work with without feeling guilty. Maybe also your library, because I know sometimes my library gifts books for free, and then start wrapping it in paper or maybe some cardboard. You can work with fabric like linen, depending on the condition of the book and the look you want to achieve, and then start painting it. You can even work with clay and create a 3D kind of cover, which I think is so cool, and then paint it, and then you can give it the most adorable fictional names like a field guide to local pixies. I mean, how cool is that? And then whenever you go to your bookshelf, you feel like you just entered the fantasy library that you always wanted. So I think this is such an adorable idea to try out this summer instead of scrolling. Okay, so the next idea is to create your own cozy reading corner. And you know, when children always build these caves with pillows and blankets and chairs and literally everything that they can find. And I thought about this and like the feeling it gave us when I did this in the past with like my friends. And so this summer, create your own little reading corner to really be able to immerse yourself into your favorite fantasy books even more. And the last idea from this category is easy, or wait, maybe it's not, because it is to organize all of your books in your bookshelves. And so maybe you can organize them by color or theme or their height and size, maybe by alphabet. And that's why on second thought I was like, it's not that easy, because I can never decide if I should organize them by color or genre or like their size. And whenever two books are beside each other and they are not the same size, I cannot. So it will probably take a lot of time, which is good because that means we spend this time offline. The next category is the Green Witch's Field Guide, and I am a Green Witch, so of course this category could not be missed. And Green Witchcraft is just so much fun, it is so versatile, and honestly, I'm never getting tired of it. And I could definitely see myself spending the rest of my life foraging outside and just being in my kitchen and making potions and tinctures and teas. And so if you love nature as well and everything it has to offer, this category is for you. Okay, so the first idea from this category is to start a Green Witch diary. And if you love nature and herbs and plants and you are into the path of a Green Witch, this is definitely a must because it makes everything so much easier. You can write down when and where you encountered an herb or a plant or a flower. And if you plan to forage, this makes everything so much easier because you can just look up when and where you found a specific plant instead of trying to remember when and where you found it. And so you have everything written in one place. You can collect the magical meanings and properties of your plants in there, the medicinal properties. And so it is just this big, good collection of your journey as a Green Witch with all of the plants that you encounter. Speaking of foraging, this is something else that you can always do instead of spending your time doomscrolling, and it is to go on foraging walks and build up your apothecary. Obviously, this is something you should do if you feel comfortable to do so and only if you know what you are foraging. But I just love spending my time offline and outside and bringing my little basket and then just collecting what nature offers me and what I can identify like safely. But yeah, going on foraging walks and then collecting herbs, drying them, building up my own apothecary is so much fun. And I definitely want to be able to identify more this year and forage more. So yeah, go on foraging walks, build up your apothecary, or if you are not comfortable foraging your own, you can also buy the herbs from maybe your local farmer's market or online from a store you trust, and by that build up your own apothecary that you can then work with in your practice or in your daily life. Another idea from this category is, of course, to make herb bundles. I am a green witch, and so they are an essential in my practice. I use them to cleanse my home or just have them hanging in my home because I am obsessed with the aesthetic, and I also work strategically with them because of their magical properties. And so you will see herb bundles everywhere in my home. And so this year, instead of scrolling online, spend some time and make herb bundles. They are so easy, they are so much fun and useful. And what about pressing flowers and making your own bookmarks? I just love floral bookmarks so much. They are so simple to make, they are so beautiful. You can use them in your Green Witch diary, or you can also use them as gifts. So spend an evening pressing flowers and making your own floral bookmarks. Okay, another idea that I have done before, which I can highly recommend, like 10 out of 10 whimsical offline activity, is to create your own herbal oracle card deck. And again, you can create it however you want. You could paint the flowers, you could maybe cut them out from old magazines, old books. Maybe you have some flower stamps that you made or bought, or maybe you can simply press the flowers and dry them and then work with these. And then create your own herbal oracle card deck. And for each of these flowers, write the folklore, the magical properties, the medicinal properties, where you found it, when you found it, how you felt when you found it on the front or the back. You could even create a really whimsical kind of cover for each of the cards backs. And so the options are endless. It is so much fun. I think it is super adorable, and you kind of start tracking your progress when it comes to your plant journey and your foraging journey and like your green witches journey in general. So highly recommend, a lot of fun, and it is really cool for studying because it acts like tiny flashcards. So yeah, highly recommend. Please try it out instead of scrolling this year. Okay, if you're really into herbalism like me and you want to study as much as you possibly can, how about taking a class about herbalism? There is so many good offers out there. You can even go to school to study and learn herbalism, but you also have like the smaller package if you don't want to commit too much. And for example, we in our local area have these herbal walks where you basically take a walk with a group and a teacher explains the plants you encounter, and you can learn on the go what you see, which I think is amazing because I am so done with studying online and like just meeting someone online. I want to go and meet people face to face and learn face to face again. So really cool idea. If you do not want to commit that much, you could also, like me, start to maybe buy herbal books or collect older herbal books. Like just find a way to study more herbalism that works for you and your lifestyle. And the last idea from this category is windowsill gardening. So you could start a little windowsill garden and grow your own herbs and plants. And I feel like as a green witch, it is always good to grow your own herbs because you really start to build up that connection. I have a little fairy garden where I grow my most used herbs like lavender and basil, and I also have some sage and peppermint, and in my parents' garden there is rosemary and dill and like all that good stuff. So if you can start to grow your own herbs, again, you do not have to have this big garden. You could simply start to grow your herbs on your windowsill, and you will have so much fun harvesting your herbs and work with them in your practice. Okay, category number 6 is soft outdoor adventures, because let's be honest, no screen will ever be able to replace nature and everything it has to offer. So this category is for you if you love adventures outside and if you want to feel like an explorer in a fantasy world. And the first idea here is to map all of the enchanted places that you encounter during your adventures. Now, I have found so many cool places in my local area that have such unique energies, and I am so grateful that I included them in my own map, because I think I would not have been able to recreate my way there, because usually I just randomly go wherever like the wind is leading me, but I usually save the coordinates and then I am always able to go back there. So for example, on my map there is Hansel and Gretel's hideaway, there is the White Ocean, which is a part of the forest where in spring everything is covered in white wood anemones, and also newly discovered the fairy realm, and I recently stumbled across a wild field of blueberries, and so it is so much fun to see the magic of your local area unfold on your map. And it could also just be a map where you mark your places to forage, for example, and don't forget to give these places magical names, because that is where the fun really comes in. Okay, the next idea is to adopt an ancient tree kind of from your local area. And so the next time you are going on an adventure outside, try to listen to what tree is calling to you. Like, what tree do you feel drawn towards to? And then just sit with it and enjoy its shadow and really try to see why it was calling to you. And I made a video about this because I was so fascinated when I did this the first time, how much trees can actually reveal about our inner world. So I will link it up here if you want to watch it, and it was so interesting. So the next time you go outside, see what tree is resonating with you and try to find out what this reveals about your inner world. And then when you go on an adventure, seeing all of the trees that you may have connected to really feels like you are visiting old friends in your local forest or park or wherever you are on an adventure. Another really fun soft outdoor adventure is to hunt for hexstones. And hexstones are magical and whimsical and adorable. And they are basically stones with a hole inside, and they are said to bring good luck. And also its folklore says that if you peer through the hole, you can literally see into fairy realm. And so hunt for hexstones this year instead of scrolling. You can also lower the difficulty of this quest and maybe hunt for like stones with a certain shape or a color. Nevertheless, it is so much fun to go on a quest to hunt for precious little stones. Another soft outdoor adventure that cannot be missed from this list and literally requires zero energy is to listen to the songs of the birds. And listening to the birds is scientifically proven to be grounding for your body, and grounding is something that we all need more of nowadays. So this year, instead of being online, go outside and listen to the birds singing. You could even try to memorize the songs by writing it down, maybe humming it until you remember it. So try to make this whimsical and give your body some relaxation and some songs from the birds, because they are adorable and you can tell that they always give their everything when they are singing. Okay, so I knew that this category would be the longest, but I just have so many ideas on how to spend your summer offline outside. For example, doing texture hunting. And all you need is some dough or clay, and then you go around and press your dough onto a texture like the bark of a tree or a cool stone formation. And then you take some paint, you paint on the clay and press it into a journal. And by that you can collect cool textures from your local area. It is so much fun. Like, I cannot imagine how cool it is to see all of the different textures that you collected into your little journal. So give it a try, start collecting textures. This next idea is for you to channel your inner child and to leave behind some magic in your local forest or your garden or a local park. And it is to build adorable tiny fairy houses only from natural materials. So think stones, feathers, flowers, fallen twigs and leaves, and just build adorable little fairy houses. And this is such a unique and beautiful way to interact with the woods without leaving any trash behind. And I promise, any fairy that will stumble across your fairy house will be pleased. And it is also a really cool surprise for any human friend that comes across the fairy house. And last but not least from this list is to make fairy mandalas. And this is leaning into the idea of leaving magic behind. And just like you would build a fairy house, you only use natural materials, and then you create a mandala on the floor of your forest or wherever you want to leave some magic behind. And I stumbled across one of these when I was at a castle ruin around Ostara, and it was this beautiful mandala made with feathers and flowers, and I shared it here, so if you have been here for a while, you will remember it. But I think it is adorable and you can really get creative and spend some time out there. So yeah, another really fun adventure that is soft and requires nothing except your magic. Okay, so the next category is the Witch's Cozy Cauldron, and this category is for you if you love spending your time at home, at the hearth, in your kitchen. And I love kitchen witchery so much because I think it is something that everybody can do. It is really rewarding and fun and magical, and you do not have to be a master chef to do any of these ideas. Just to be clear here. The first idea here is to start a physical recipe collection where you start collecting all of the recipes from your friends or your family that you enjoy and you definitely want to keep, maybe pass on, and so keep them in a beautiful notebook. I have some recipes that I definitely want to keep in my lineage, and so this is something that I started doing. It is so cool. Again, you can work with other techniques like maybe scrapbooking to make it more whimsical, work with stamps, with pictures. I don't know, you can make it as whimsical as you want and have a beautiful physical recipe collection. The next idea that you can do this summer instead of being online is to create an aesthetic spice display. So maybe you have a cute little shelf where you can collect all of your spices and teas that you need in your kitchen and your kitchen witchery practice. And do not forget to put the tags on it. Again, this is what makes it really whimsical. And I recently saw someone kind of using a little shelf that I have in my home as well, where I keep my crystals. And she literally made a little display with all of the teas for the different phases of her period, which I thought was such a cute idea. She had all of these adorable little jars. So keep your spices and herbs and teas in little jars and tag them, because just doing this will make your kitchen look like it's straight out of a cottagecore storybook. So 10 out of 10, can highly recommend to do this summer. Okay, so I recently got a sourdough starter and I'm so committed to bake my own bread, because the bread that my coworker made for me was so delicious. And so this summer, instead of scrolling, make your own bread. It is so cool to have your loaf of bread in your hands, and it tastes so much better than anything you could buy in the store. So if you want to start baking this year, we can do it together, because I am really committed. And speaking of bread, you could also start to make your own jam and syrup this year with different seasonal berries and fruits, and just experiment with the different flavors. Like my friend, she always comes up with the most whimsical and interesting mixtures when it comes to her jam, but it is always so delicious, and I cannot wait to have a freshly baked loaf of bread and put some jam on it. Like, it's the best thing in the world. And I feel like jam and syrup is really beginner friendly, so if you're just starting out to level up your kitchen witch skills, this is something that I think you can definitely do. So just have fun and try to make your own syrup and jam, because having it in your kitchen will definitely make you feel like you are the kitchen witch of your dream cottage. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Another idea from the Witch's Cozy Cauldron category is to give your tea fantasy names. And I usually like to have loose tea, and that's why I store all of my tea in cute little jars. And again, I feel like having everything in glass jars with a label makes the world just better, and that's a truth we have to accept. But yeah, try to find new fantasy names for the tea and then label it with the name you just gave it. And now whenever you drink a tea, it makes you feel like you just entered a really cozy fairy tale. Now this year, instead of scrolling, you could also start to try dyeing your clothes and fabrics with nature. There is so many different options that nature provides to dye your clothes naturally, and I am definitely going to try this out, because I have a few bed sheets that are plain white and I want to give them a whimsical green and yellow. So definitely on my bucket list this year to do instead of scrolling is dyeing my fabric with nature. And the last idea from this category is to bake something the fairies would love. So think about something that you would expect at a banquet in fairy realm, and I'm thinking like lavender shortbread cookies, maybe decorated with some edible pansies, and just miniature vanilla cupcakes topped with maybe some pastel colored icing or little sparks of lemon. Like, I would love to visit a fairy realm banquet, because I can only imagine all of the beautiful treats that you could find there. But we know we should never eat in fairy realm, but I'm just imagining it. So this summer, instead of scrolling, try to find something to bake that really makes you feel like you just entered a banquet of the fairies. I personally love to spend a lot of time at home, because my social battery runs out so fast, and so of course there had to be a category with all of the whimsical ideas that we can do inside of our homes. And the first idea is to do a themed room makeover, and you could do a makeover for your whole home. Maybe you're just making over a corner of the room, maybe it's a single room, but you want to think about a theme that you like, that inspires you, and then paint your walls and rearrange your furniture and decorate accordingly to this theme. So for example, hobbitcore, whimsy, maybe it's cottagecore or forest fairy or enchanted forest. It is so much fun to even just make a mood board and think about the themes. So this summer, do a room makeover instead of being online. I really love making every single thing literally that I own unique and full of whimsy, because in my opinion it invites back the playfulness and creativity into my life. And so the next idea to spend the summer offline instead of online is to find ways to make your home more unique and your home interior more unique. So maybe you can paint some furniture with golden accents, or again with mushrooms, with flowers, with ivy, because we can never get enough of ivy. It is so much fun, and yeah, find ways to make your home more unique. And what would a whimsical home be without a lot of fairy lights and tons of fake ivy? So this year, instead of being online, get your hands on fairy lights and fake ivy and put up as much as you can. Like, at this point, it's a challenge. We want everything to be covered in fairy lights and fake ivy. And the next idea is to create a home protection sigil, which you can then paint above your doors and windows, maybe even below the tapestry. Okay, it is my absolute dream to someday have my own gallery wall and to just have a wall dedicated to beautiful art and little whimsical knickknacks like sun and moon ornaments. And so if you have the chance to create a gallery wall, please do so. It is so cool. I wish I could do it now, but every single thing that I put up on my wall is falling down, so my hands are bound. But I have been thrifting so much art for this specific purpose. And so if you have the chance, if you have the space, start making your own gallery wall. Like, how much fun is this? I cannot imagine how much fun I would have. Next idea is to make seasonal wreaths, and I love making seasonal wreaths. I always make them for the turning of the wheel, like for the different sabbats. And so make your own seasonal wreath. You can be as creative and individual as you like and add some dried flowers and herbs and use some twigs that represent the magic that you want to invite into your home. So making seasonal wreaths, like, so much fun, better than scrolling. Put it on your summer offline list. And the next idea here is to make your own natural twine garland, because instead of buying ugly plastic decoration, you can simply make your own natural decoration by using a long piece of twine and then tie all the natural elements along it. So this could be orange slices, acorns, bay leaves, flowers, cinnamon sticks, hagstones, whatever you want, whatever magic you want to bring into your home, and then string it across your curtain rods or above your bed, and that way you give your home an instant cottagecore upgrade. Another really adorable idea here is to hide secret details in your home. So maybe you can hide feathers between the spines of your books, or maybe you can put some crystals between some decoration, or maybe you have little boxes where you can put something inside. Maybe you can paint little ornaments or flowers or mushrooms in like your rooms or on the furniture. If you have children, I can only imagine how cool it would be if they start to find these little details around your home. So try to find ways to hide little secrets in your home, and I promise that's an instant whimsy upgrade for your whole entire life. Okay, so category number 9 is the Magpie Archive. And idea number 1 from this category is to start a collection of something that brings you joy. I had a friend and her father collected hippos. And so whenever I visited her, I saw all of these hippos everywhere in their house, in every shape and form, and I loved everything about that. And so this summer, instead of being online, try to find something that you want to start collecting, like a little magpie. It could be crystals, it could be mugs, maybe art, maybe you are really into sun and moon themed ornaments. Try to find something you want to collect, like that little whimsy magpie. But your collection doesn't even have to consist only of physical things. You can collect stories too. So get a cool notebook and start collecting your local folklore, urban legends. It could be myths or ghost stories even, or maybe some weird historical facts. And I think this is such a cool thing to do instead of scrolling online. Okay, so the next idea here is to collect summer audio clips, and yes, we can collect audio as well. And for that, you want to turn your smartphone into airplane mode and then record 30-second audio clips from your summer, literally. So maybe it's the ocean that you are sitting in front of, maybe it's the rustling of the leaves from your local forest, maybe it's the sounds of the birds, the laughter of your children, the gathering of your family. And then you want to save all of these into a folder, so when it is freezing cold outside in winter, you can go back and re-listen to your summer. And I think this is such a beautiful idea to do instead of doom scrolling. Another really cool idea here is to make seasonal memory jars, and I love doing them for autumn especially, because autumn of course is the best season in the world. But you want to collect items from the different seasons, like feathers and stones and acorns and shells, and then you put everything into your seasonal memory jar. Just make sure that you don't put anything inside that can turn your memory jar into a mold garden. Another idea is to create a lost objects museum catalog from all of the items you find outside during your adventures. Like, I personally am that little magpie, and I always have my head in the clouds and my eyes on the ground because I feel like maybe I find something cool. And so I have found bracelets and buttons and really interesting things. I even saw someone online kind of documenting his journey to finding a diamond, and so every single day he shows what he has found until he finds a diamond, which I feel like is such a unique and cool idea. But yeah, instead of scrolling this summer, why not make a list with all of the items that you have found outside, that you find outside this summer? It is so much fun, such a unique and whimsical idea in my opinion. The next idea here is to create a visual green summer timeline, and when you see this video, you want to go to your favorite tree and pick one leaf, and you do this every single week, and you press the leaves in a heavy book. And so in September or October, as long as you want to do this, you have this really cool timeline of the leaves and how they change their color from green to like autumn gold. I think this is such a unique idea. You can even turn it into a piece of art. So instead of being online, make a visual green summer timeline this year. And the last idea here is, of course, to make your own nature curiosity cabinet. And you know how much I love collecting nature. And I started this about 2 years ago, and I just have like this little shelf where I put all of my treasures. I keep a lot of my treasures in little jars, and it is just so much fun. I'm looking at it right now to just see all of these things and have your memories connected to them. So when you're going outside, start collecting nature, start being curious, start collecting cool looking stones and sticks and shells, and of course do it where it is allowed. But I think this is one of my most favorite things ever, and I cannot imagine ever stopping, like just looking at this empty wasp nest or like the dragonfly wing. I yesterday found the wing of a really cool looking beetle, and I love it. I love it so much. And I give it a 10 out of 10. It's a must. Please do it instead of scrolling. Okay, so category number 10 is object ancestry and thrift flips. And I said it before, I love thrifting so much because it always feels like time traveling. And so it only felt right to dedicate a whole category to thrifting and thrift flipping. And the first idea from this category is to go thrifting with a theme, kind of make a themed hunt challenge. So instead of doom scrolling, you can go to the thrift store and thrift with a specific theme in mind. For example, dark academia, cottagecore, whimsical, maybe it's sun and moon themed. And as you can see, I love sun and moon themed challenges. But yeah, this could be a theme. Maybe it's forest core, hobbit core, blue, gold, whatever it is. Go to the thrift store and spend your time finding things that really fit the aesthetic that you want to achieve. Maybe when it comes to your home, to a specific room, to your personal fashion choices. So it is a lot of fun to thrift with a theme in mind. Okay, so the next idea here is to make a thrift bucket inventory, which basically means that you write down everything you want to find in the thrift store. And maybe there is a holy grail that you really wish to find in the thrift store or at the flea market. Maybe you are missing something in your bathroom or your kitchen that you really hope to find in the thrift store. And so you write all of that down. And what I like about it is that you spend your time and money more wisely. You do not buy things just because maybe they are cheap or like you buy spontaneously. You really have this inventory and you can thrift more mindful and like with a clear goal, which is always good because I always get distracted and like my thrift trips are mostly chaotic because I just see things and I buy everything. And so this really helped me to buy more intentionally and to not build up any more clutter with things that I will not use in the future. The next idea here is, of course, to upcycle and thrift flip the things you find in the thrift store. And I talked a little bit about upcycling already in this video, but I wanted to name it separately again in this category because it is its own idea. And if you ask me, it's like opening the box of Pandora because it is so versatile and you are working with what you have. So if you find something wooden, you are working with the wood. If you find pearls, you may decide to simply make a bracelet. But thrift flipping is so versatile. It includes so many options and techniques, and I am never getting tired of it. So it deserves its own bullet point in this list. Another amazing idea for this category is to curate themed gift packages, because if you are like me and you are always late with your presents and you don't know what to gift to another person, this is definitely your idea, because we can do this more strategically. We can start earlier by curating themed gift packages. So when you see this, think about the people that you need to buy a present for this year. So your family, your friends, maybe for Christmas, and then think about different themes. And each person gets a theme. So for example, the upcoming birthday of your mother could be themed ocean and summer and the color blue. And then now when you go into the thrift store, you start to find things that fit the theme. And so over time you accumulate this cute little package that you can then gift. And I feel like it's not only one thing that you may have bought with severe stress. You really thought about it, and over time this gift accumulated, which I think is really magical in itself. So yeah, instead of doom scrolling, go to the thrift store and thrift with a theme for gifts for the people that you love. Okay, category number 11 is gentle social magic, because I recently realized that if I don't have the community that I want to be part of, because this community does not exist yet, I don't have to be sad and sit around and wait, because I can actively start to shape this community as well. And we can do this in like cozy ways, in gentle ways, without the pressure of loud and overstimulating events. And so if you are in a similar situation, this category is for you. And the first idea here is to start your cozy book club. So if this resonates with you and you really want someone to talk to about books and fantasy worlds and whatever it is, start your own book club if there is no book club whatsoever in your local community. And I promise there is probably more people than you might think that want to talk about their favorite books and worlds and characters. And so maybe you can do this in your garden, maybe with your friends, maybe you can arrange something in a local park or your favorite cafe after talking to the owner. And I think it is just the most lovely thing to connect people over the shared love for a story. So instead of scrolling, think about starting your own book club. Okay, so the next idea here is to handwrite some letters to your family and friends this year. And in a world where instant texting exists, I think that snail mail really is the charm, because it shows that you really took the time to maybe think about their birthday or a special occasion, and instead of writing it online, take your time and write a letter, and you can wax it with a really cute seal. You can include some pressed flowers, like make it really whimsical. And I think it is so adorable to take the time to sit down to write something with your hand and then show the person that you really wanted them to have a piece of your magic in their hand. And I'm always happy when I receive letters and postcards. So much better. Highly recommend doing it this year. Okay, so instead of going to a loud, expensive restaurant, you can also go ahead and invite your friends to a themed backyard dinner party. You can, of course, also invite your family, whoever you want to invite, but make a themed backyard dinner party. I think this is adorable, and when I have a table and a bigger home, I will definitely invite people over for a forest fairy party and ask everyone to bring something whimsical, forest themed. And this is such a fun activity, and I really think that eating together and like telling stories, maybe sitting around a fireplace afterwards, is one of the oldest ways to bond when it comes to human history. And so let's bring it back. Let's eat together, let's celebrate together, let's have themed backyard dinner parties that make us feel whimsical and like we belong somewhere. And the next idea is to plan a farmers market weekend date with your friends and or family. Of course, you can also do this alone, but try to plan something with your friends or family and go to the local farmers market. It is so much fun chatting while looking at all the colorful fruits and vegetables. You can grab a coffee and just have a really whimsical time while contributing to your local farmers, which I think is beautiful and we should support this more. The next idea is to plan a book swap or a plant swap where you literally invite friends and family, even strangers if you feel comfortable to do so, to a swap party. And I visited a Japanese fashion swap before, and it was so much fun. You basically bring books or plants or whatever you decide on, and then everybody just swaps and changes, and you get these things for free. Like you bring something, you get a new plant or a new book for free, which is, I think, such a cool way to rebel against the economy. And it is a lot of fun. You meet new people, and so there is only plus points in organizing your own book or plant swap this summer. And the last idea here is to do seasonal harvest rituals with your friends or families again. And we have some of these places here where you can go to and, for example, harvest strawberries. I always do this around Letha, and there is usually all these families like coming with their children, harvesting strawberries. And so try to see what your local area offers and go and harvest your own fruits and vegetables. Again, have a good time, contribute to your local community, and yeah, it is a lot of fun. I cannot wait when the strawberry fields here open again and I can bring my basket and make it full with delicious smelling strawberries. Okay, so category number 12 is romanticizing art and culture. And so if you are less social and you still like to spend more of your time alone, don't worry, I got you, because this category includes ideas that you can do also on your own. And the first idea here is, of course, to do solo museum wandering. And I don't know about you, I love museums because I love getting inspired by someone else's creative magic. Like, I love art museums so much, but I also really love traveling back in time and looking at museums about like history and the culture of a country. I always visit museums when I'm traveling, and so instead of scrolling online this year, get on your wired headphones, listen to your favorite music, and just wander through the museums that your area has to offer. Okay, so the next idea here is to do some architectural walks. And I love ancient buildings and architecture, like old architecture, so much. And I always, when I stumble across an old church or a really cool castle, I'm like, how is this even possible? Like, how much knowledge and skill was required to build all of that? And so instead of going online this year, put on some comfy shoes, get some iced coffee or iced matcha or whatever you like, and take an architectural walk. Really take your time to immerse yourself in like the buildings in your town, maybe a neighbored town, and really think about like the knowledge and skills that went into these buildings. Like, really immerse yourself into the Gothic windows of maybe the church, or like the carvings in the brickwork. Like, I love it so much. And so many buildings also have like written history on signs or like the building itself. So if you're like me, you love reading these, I highly recommend, and I challenge you this year to go on some architectural walks. Another idea to do this summer to stay offline is to embody that Victorian herbologist. And for that, visit some local greenhouses or just your local nursery, really. And I love surrounding myself with herbs and plants and flowers, as you probably know by now. But to even embody that Victorian herbologist that I really want to be even more, I love visiting greenhouses. And we have these really cool ones here in my local area. We have like a rose garden where there is roses everywhere, or like in this greenhouse there is butterflies everywhere. And so this is a really cool thing to do to stay offline. And if you want to embody that ancient herbologist even more, you can bring a notebook and a pencil and just draw the leaves that you see, like the shapes of the leaves, maybe the butterflies. You can take pictures with your analog camera. It is so much fun, and yeah, you will feel like you are that Victorian herbologist you always wanted to be. I know it's true, and it's okay. Another idea on my analog summer bucket list for this year is to visit more local artisan workshops. And as you can see, we are in this together. I'm not letting you down. Like, we are spending our summer offline together, and I'm super committed this year. And one of the things I really want to do more of is to visit some local workshops. Like, I'm thinking a ceramic workshop, maybe making your own jewelry. I did this before. I highly recommend it. It is so much fun. Maybe a stained glass workshop. There is even a workshop where you can bring some stones you found and then carve them and like smooth them out. There is so many options, and so this year, instead of being online, I definitely want to do more of these local workshops and just meet some people. Like, you can do them alone, and I will definitely do them alone, but I also like the community aspect of them. Even though I am going there alone, we are a little group practicing something artsy, which is adorable in my opinion. Okay, so the next idea here is to learn a whimsical instrument, and the goal here is not to be next Mozart. Like, the goal here is to have fun, to learn something new, just being open with a beginner mind and allowing ourselves to learn something new. And so instead of surrounding ourselves with digital noise this year, let's surround ourselves with whimsical music instead. Like, learn the piano, learn the violin, the guitar, maybe the Celtic harp, maybe it's the Cauldron. I tried learning this and it did not really resonate with me, but it is so cool. So learn a whimsical instrument this year and just have fun. Again, we don't want to be next Mozart. And the last idea from this category is to do a random poetry reading. So go to your local bookstore, go to the poetry section and just open a random book and read it. And you don't even have to buy the book. You can just be with the poem for a while. You can keep doing this until you want to. You can even do this in like a different section. Maybe it's the historical section, the fantasy section. I think it is a really childlike idea to just walk through the bookstore, opening books and just seeing what comes up. And usually when I do this, like, this is interesting because there is always something included in like this poem or the page that I opened up that was relevant to me and resonated with me. So do some random poetry reading this summer instead of spending your time on a display. Okay, so next category is midnight studies and secret knowledge, because I know, let's be honest here, we were all waiting secretly for that Hogwarts letter to arrive, which it never did. But don't worry, we can create our own kind of Hogwarts schedule, and our goal here is not productivity, but we are working merely with our thirst for curiosity. And the first idea here is the Zero Internet Research Challenge. And as the name suggests, we find a topic that we are really interested in and do as much research as we can without any internet. So get the books out, get whatever you need for it out that is not digital, and do some good old research with a notebook and a pen. And whenever I do this, I always feel like I'm that ancient scholar that is uncovering some secrets. I don't know, it feels really fun tracking down some information with your own detective skill, like looking through all of the books, finding the threads that are leading you somewhere new. It is a lot of fun. So get a topic you are interested in and do some research without any internet or digital help. Okay, so instead of doom scrolling this year, why not immerse yourself into an area you have wanted to study for the longest time? So maybe it's herbalism, the moon phases, folklore, foraging, maybe it's the seasonal cycles or astrology, symbolism, mythology. Like, there is so many good options that we can immerse ourselves into, and just making it fun, like just creating our own schedule for it, like our own curriculum, which is the next idea. Because as I said, even though we did not receive that Hogwarts letter, we can simply create our own magical curriculum, and this is like our own intuitive study path where we don't have any pressure to pass an exam, we don't have any timelines or like deadlines. We can simply study as fast as we want, and I love all about that because I feel like this system of like teaching is not really what was for me. Like, I would have loved to get deeper into certain topics, spend more time on these topics that interested me. And so make your own curriculum, have some fun, maybe do 10 minutes a day of like astrology and stargazing, like whatever it is. Make it as magical and fun as you can, so that you really feel like you are sitting in that Hogwarts classroom. And the next idea here is to learn about the runes, their meanings, and also make your own rune set. Now, I have done this before. It is so cute. It is so much fun. And so the next time you are outside on an adventure, try to find 24 flat small pebbles, or you can also get a branch that you then cut into 24 little pieces, and then you can kind of carve the symbols of the runes into it, paint them on it, maybe use a wood burner depending on what you are using. But just working with the runes is so much fun, and I promise every single time you are outside, when you start to learn about the runes and their meanings, you will see runes everywhere, in every stone, in every stick. At least that's what it is like to me. Like, I see runes in every branch that I encounter. I'm like, wait, this looks like this rune, and I always take a picture. It is so much fun. So instead of scrolling, learn about the runes and make your own rune set. And last but not least from this category is to create a moon phase calendar. So if you have not yet lived with the moon, start to get more into its phases, like start tracking the moon phases when it's waning and waxing, and also write down how you feel, like really create this interactive journal when it comes to the moon phases, because I can always tell when it's a full moon, when it is a new moon. I know exactly by the way I feel what moon phase it is, which I think is so interesting. So start writing it down, because like after a while reading through it is so interesting, especially if you learn about astrology. It is so much fun. So start tracking the new moons, the full moons, like in general the cycles of the moons, what you connect to it, how your emotions are, and yeah, use this as your evening activity instead of scrolling. Okay, so we are slowly coming to an end with these 100 ideas, and this is category number 14, the Botanist's Sanctuaries. So this category is for all my plant moms out there who just love working with plants, surrounding themselves with plants, having a lot of like terracotta pots in their home, and just admiring their little plant friends who make everything better inside, right? Like, who would not want green plants inside of their homes? So this category is for you. Okay, so the first idea here is to give your plants a little home update. So instead of being on your phone, take a look at your green girls and see if any of them need a new home. And like, my plants grow so fast, and I usually could do this like every other week, because I don't know, they just love where they are. They are growing so fast, and I always have a lot of fun kind of sitting with the plants, giving them a bigger pot, it is really satisfying. And I always feel like, okay, now you're free, like you can grow bigger now. It is so much fun. And also like doing some research about what soil they need, what fertilizer they need. So yeah, help your green friends to stretch their roots and upgrade their home this summer instead of being on your phone. Speaking of upgrading your plant friend's home, not only can you provide them a bigger home, you can also provide a more whimsical home by painting your pots in the most magical way. So maybe you can paint your pots in a dark blue and then add some accent by adding some golden moons. Maybe you can glue some gemstones on your pots. Maybe you have these really beautiful vintage pots that are super detailed that you can use. And so yeah, not only can you make it bigger, but you can also make your plant friend's home more whimsical. So another really fun idea that is also on my bucket list this year. Okay, so the next idea here is to make a windowsill green laboratory where you basically cultivate your own cuttings. And I love doing it because it looks so magical, having like these medicinal vials with all of your cuttings inside and like tracking all of the progress, like when these ghostly little roots start growing from the cutting. And it is just so cool to see how all of these plants just thrive with so less, which is also a really cool visual reminder if you ask me. But yeah, it looks super whimsical. And so start collecting these cool glass jars, maybe old perfume bottles, maybe it is again some medicinal vials, and start creating your own cuttings. They are perfect as gifts. I started doing this and like giving these cuttings as gifts instead of buying something new, which not only saves money, but is also some of the best gifts that you could ever make and receive, because plants are cool and we need more of them in our home. And the last idea for all my plant moms out there is to trace the botanical origins of your plants. And so I always find it so interesting when I do some research about my plants and like where they originally grew. And I always cannot believe that I have a piece of like a jungle from this different part of the world, and kind of finding out where they usually grow and like how, and then seeing all of these pictures. Like I have this tiny little plant, but in nature it grows like meters high. And so just doing some research about your plants and their origins is a really cool activity for every single mom. Like get to know your plants, get to know their homes and how they usually grow. It's so much fun, and again, you really will feel like you have like a piece of a different part of the world growing inside of your home, which I think is so cool. Okay, so we arrived at category number 15, which is the last category, and it is the art of doing absolutely nothing. And you heard me right, because after all these adventure, after all this wandering and collecting and learning and crafting and just whimsy maxing our summers, we also need rest. And rest is, in my opinion, one of the most whimsical things that we can do. And so this year, instead of doom scrolling, allow yourself to do a whole lot of nothing. And I know it's hard because we are trained to always be productive, but again, being whimsical, I feel like also means to allow ourselves to be quiet and do nothing, and maybe just daydream and listen to whatever sounds surround us. And so maybe you want to go and sit under the tree, just with the goal of sitting there and doing nothing. Maybe you can take a blanket to your favorite creek or body of water and listen to the water flowing and running. Maybe you can wrap yourself in a blanket and sit on your patio or your balcony or in your garden and just sit there without the urge of doing something. And what I love about this is that we train ourselves to listen to not only ourselves but the gentle sounds of what surrounds us, because in this time and age I feel like we always listen to something but we don't really listen, really, if this makes sense. Like, there is this digital noise everywhere which makes it so hard to hear yourself, to hear the gentle sounds in the world. Do a lot of nothing, learn to listen again to the more gentle sounds of our world. Alright, magical one, so there you go. Here is my 100 ideas how you can spend the summer offline like a whimsical little fairy. And I really hope that this video was not only just a list for you, but also a reminder to slow down this summer and to not be too hard on yourself, and to allow yourself to start new things, to try out new things, and to get back into this childlike and playful, uplifting way of experiencing life, and just allow the magic to come back into your life. And I know it has been a very long video probably, but if you want me to go deeper into any of these categories and provide you another 100 ideas list for any of the categories, let me know down below. I would love to do so. And again, don't forget to share your own ideas, because I really want this to be a big collection of really fun, whimsical ideas. And so with that being said, we will hang out again next week. And so I really hope you have a beautiful, magical week, and see you then. Bye bye, magical one.